Birdie is a coming-of-age film told through the eyes of 16-year-old English, the younger daughter of a Nigerian family displaced by the Biafran War and living in a Catholic charity home in rural Virginia. As the war ends, the arrival of new refugee unsettles their fragile balance and drives a wedge between English and her sister Birdie, leaving English to face the truths she's been avoiding about her father, her family, and what's left of their home. It's a beautiful film. It's very poetic and cinematic. We're joined today by the director of Birdie, Praise Odigie Paige. Praise, welcome to Cinemaphile.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me, Mike.
Oh, you're very welcome. There's so many things I like about the film. I love kind of the tone that you said. It's a very contemplative pace to the film. Really gives you an opportunity to kind of sit with the characters, kind of understand their situation and the things that are going through their mind. Literally, you feel like you are seeing them in real time, kind of understand what's happening. Even
Mm,
if they don't completely understand it, it's something they're processing. Tell
mm.
me a little bit about the inspiration behind this film.
Thank you for those kind words. Yeah, for me, it was really important that the film was about their interiority. I'm not really sort of much of a big plot-driven storyteller. I'm more interested in like intricacies and the drama of just being a human being. Birdie and English are sort of a mirror of my sister and I and our relationship, and just moments spent idling and trying to figure out what our lives were going to become and dealing with all the micro and macro things that come with just being a teenager and compounded by this moment of uncertainty. And they're certainly in a serious moment of uncertainty of what their lives are going to become. And yeah, I felt so tender towards those characters, and I just wanted people to see them. There's so many inspirations behind the film. I mean, Lucretia Martel and her sort of surreal framing of teenage confusion and contradictions was really inspiring to me in the way she does that in sort of a realist but surrealist way. And Days of Heaven became an inspiration after visiting the landscape because I was really quite shy. I knew that I wanted to make this sort of romantic period piece, but I didn't know how much I wanted to give into the landscape and the sort of grandiosity of it. And being on location and feeling like this was really where they were and like just taking in the environment. My DP and I, Lydia, she really encouraged me to just let my heart fly. I'm a huge period fan. And going back and watching Malik's Days of Heaven was just like, wow, it's so beautiful how you can express how a character is feeling through landscape. And so we just like let loose, and we were like, so many of the landscapes in the film were small, written in the film were smaller, but we just gave into those big hills and let it just really feel like the landscape was an extension of how they were feeling. And even in the sound design, like things like birds, there's so many different types of birds in our sound design, and there are these mourning doves, and just leaning into like what nature had to say and reveal about how they were feeling and the things they couldn't say. So Days of Heaven was a big inspiration. La Nina Santa was another big inspiration for me. And Jane Campion and her films like Angel at My Table, were huge for me. And yeah, even Atlantics and sort of like the how teenage desire sort of becomes this phenomenon was a big inspiration for me too.
That is quite a sweeping overview of the film, and I totally appreciate it. And, I think subliminally it crossed my mind, particularly
Mm,
some of the hillsides,
mm,
walking down from the house
mhm.
towards this huge field, and
Yeah.
even to the point where Bertie and are laying together. I forgot the character's name,
Justice.
Justice, lying in the field.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
yeah, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. Thank you for pointing out the cinematography because it is
Yeah.
beautiful. You mentioned Lydia Nico Nova.
Nicanova,
Yeah, terrific
a
stuff.
genius. Yeah.
And again, just thinking about the film, giving these characters an opportunity to inhabit their
Mhm.
space and allow us to, again, I love films that invite me in to the space where the character is, to
Hmm.
give me an opportunity to sit with the character and
Hmm.
to be able to understand that dynamic. And then when you see other people come into their story, it just gives you a better appreciation of the dynamics involved, and that's what this film does very well. There's a couple
Yeah.
of sly, references to like the nuns being there. It's
Hmm.
sort of there's a spiritual component to this throughout the
Absolutely.
field.
Yeah.
Like so you're getting these variations on spirituality and
Hmm.
inevitability and life and death
Hmm.
and all of it.
Hmm.
So it's all there.
Yeah.
You know,
It is a
obviously.
very poetic film in that sense. And yeah, the nuns represent something very specific. And it's so funny, the nuns, like the film really came together first subconsciously for me in sort of putting all these pieces together that felt like they needed to be together.
Yeah.
And the nuns was just one of those things that I knew was always something that came about in the film. And it felt, in my mind, very surreal. That's how I wanted it to feel. Like they represent this sort of like that scene where they're walking down this and sort of greeting to me, like I wanted that to feel almost like this funeral procession that was being foreshadowed in a way. There's so many little things like that that are sort of poetic interpretations or expressions of something that's happening that I didn't really want to just say, but I wanted to be felt in the atmosphere and in the symbolism too happening throughout the film.
I don't know if it's tangential or if it's central to what you were going for in the film, but for a lot of Americans, the Biafran War that you're it's referenced in this is might as well be ancient history, but I'm unfortunately old enough to remember it and
Mhm.
remember the just the absolute carnage that took place
Yeah.
in it. So is there what's your what's your rationale for referencing that in the film?
Oh my goodness. Well, I knew that I wanted the film to take place in the 70s. And, it's like, it's so devastating how little explored that his piece of history is. And it's so significant to my country. And, I mean, like over 2 million people died,
Mhm.
and the majority of those people were children.
Yes.
So it's this really tragic part of our history that we don't talk about enough. And knowing that I wanted this to be a story about migration and kind of thinking about what was driving the wave of migration in the 70s. I mean, there were people who were particularly Nigerian immigrants who were either fleeing the Biafran War or decided to stay here because they couldn't go back home. And so I wanted that to be felt in atmosphere. They're not there, right? So this isn't necessarily a war story because they're not in the middle of the war, but they're experiencing the effects of it from thousands of miles away. But yeah, it was really important to me to bring that back up
Yeah.
because it's so little talked about and explored, with the exception of, Half of a Yellow Sun, and we experience it in literature, but films don't really go into not just the Biafran War, but also the displacement that occurred because of it. There are a few really amazing documentaries, but beyond that, we don't really talk about it a lot. And so I wanted to talk about it, especially being in a period where we were like experiencing and watching global displacement happen. It sort of deepened my need to have that be really felt in the film. And that, was obviously a period of massive displacement, not just for people coming to the US, but children that were sent to South Tome and Principe. And there's this documentary about it's something in reference to the lost children because like so many people never even found their families. And so yeah, it was really important for me to talk about war and displacement and how that kind of presses into the lives of these young women and how things like desire and agency and shame are shaped by these really massive forces.
And it really informs a particularly dramatic part of the film near the end of the film when
Yeah.
this sort of comes to a head
Hmm.
between the daughters and mom, and that dynamic of wanting to believe one thing and then I'll call it realistic perspective or not. It's just another perspective. We don't know exactly what happened.
Hmm.
And so again, another reason to be thought-provoking in the film as well. Just another sort of a jarring moment of the realization, thousands of miles from where they are, that this could or could not be true. And Yeah, it just adds up to a very powerful film. And just to your point, because this is a little bit far afield from our discussion, but I do think that the next 20, 25, 30 years, who knows what period of time, but I do think that displacement, I even can foresee in the worst of circumstances, the
Yep.
collapse of nation states all over the world in terms of what we're looking at, in terms of climate and some very serious geopolitical situations. I see that as something that is not, I think it's inevitable. Maybe I don't know what scale it's on, but I think we're going to see nation states collapse
Yep.
in the
That's right.
not too distant future. And we're certainly, the moment we're having this conversation it's even more relevant to that discussion as well. So it's a powerful film on many different levels. And if you take the time to see Birdie and think about it, I think you'll come to many of the same conclusions that at least I'm putting forward here. It's a power. I love the way what I'll call a smaller story, a more intimate story, can illuminate so much, and that's certainly, I think, the case here. So thank you.
Thank you.
Wow. Well, just in terms of sort of your feeling about Sundance is just a few weeks away. Going there and spending some time, have you sort of thought through what your expectations are, how you plan to kind of make sure you can get this in front of as many people as possible? I know you're working on a feature,
Yeah.
and hopefully this is going to provide you with another way to
Yeah.
leverage that wherever you are in that process. So
Yeah.
good luck on that.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm excited for Sundance. The opportunity to share it with an audience of people who are interested in film
yeah,
is really incredible. And also to build community around the film. I mean, that's really my intent going in. I just feel I'm hungry to see more of the global female voice in film. And I'm really excited about some of the other films too at Sundance that are made by African and Nigerian filmmakers, whether it's Kikuyu Land by Bia and Olive and Wosu's Lady. Like I'm really excited to build community and to celebrate these films, first of all, being made. It's incredible. It's an incredible miracle that any of these films are made. But that they also get to be shown to an audience of people who are really interested in experiencing them. So I'm looking forward to obviously being in as many, watching as many films as I can and meeting incredible filmmakers whose work I respect, but also just some of the serendipitous things that can happen when you just are opening yourself to it and approaching the experience with ease. So
yeah,
that's my goal going in because I
yeah.
definitely have had my moment of anxiety of like, how do you maximize this kind of experience? But I think I'm just gonna try my best to just honestly have a good time.
Once again, the film is called Birdie. We've been joined today by the director, writer, and producer of this wonderful film, which, by the way, will be premiering at this year's Sundance Film Festival. It begins its public screening on Tuesday, January 27th. It'll be also screening on the 30th and February 1st. So be looking for Birdie. Praise Odigie Paige, thank you so very much for your time today, and thank you for spending it with us. Thank
Thank
you
you
very
so much.